I thought it would be a quiet taxi ride. Instead, I heard a story that completely changed how I look at my family. I was riding in a taxi, and the taxi driver who was driving me looked very sad. So I decided to ask him what had happened, and he told me this story. I'll tell it to you so that this man doesn't feel so sad and lonely. Maybe this story will make someone appreciate their family more. This wasn't one of those casual rides where the driver makes small talk about traffic or the weather. The car felt heavy, like the air itself had weight. He kept both hands tight on the wheel, eyes fixed straight ahead, barely blinking. No music, no radio chatter. Just the hum of the engine and long pauses that felt louder than noise. At a red light, I caught his reflection in the rearview mirror. His eyes were red, not like he just cried, but like someone who hadn't slept properly in years. There was something exhausted about him, not just tired from work exhausted, but tired from life exhausted. I almost didn't ask. Felt intrusive. But something about the way he sighed, deep, like it came from somewhere broken, made me say, "Hey, sorry if this is too personal, but are you okay?" He didn't answer right away. The light turned green, he drove on, and for a moment I thought I'd crossed a line. Then he gave a small, bitter laugh and said, "No, I'm really not." That was how it started. After he said, "No, I'm really not," there was another long pause. I told him it was okay if he didn't want to talk, that I didn't mean to pry. He shook his head slightly, like he was arguing with himself. "You know," he said finally, "sometimes it's easier to tell a stranger. You get out of the car, and I never have to see your face again." I didn't know what to say to that, so I just listened. He started with his parents. He said it almost casually, like he'd repeated this story so many times in his head that the words had worn smooth. "My mom and dad died when I was 26, he said. "Car accident. Drunk driver hit them head-on." He tightened his grip on the steering wheel when he said that. His knuckles went pale. "They were coming back from visiting my aunt. I was supposed to go with them, but I had a shift at work. I remember being annoyed about it. If I'd gone, maybe—" He stopped himself. "Doesn't matter. They were gone instantly. That's what the police told me. Like that was supposed to make it better." He told me he got the call at 2:47 in the morning. He remembered the exact time. He said he still wakes up sometimes and checks the clock, half expecting it to say 2:47 again. "I didn't cry at first," he admitted. "I just sat there. I kept thinking someone made a mistake. Parents don't just disappear overnight." That was the first crack in his voice. And I realized this wasn't just a sad man. This was someone who had been carrying loss for so long it had reshaped him. He said the funeral felt unreal, like he was watching someone else's life from the back row of a bad movie. "I remember people hugging me," he said. "They kept saying things like, 'They're in a better place,' or 'They'd want you to be strong.' I wanted to scream at them. I didn't need them in a better place. I needed them here." After his parents died, everything changed at once. The house felt too quiet. Meals felt pointless. He said he used to call his mom for stupid things, how long to boil pasta, which detergent to buy. Suddenly there was no one to call. That's when the cracks in his family started to show. His brother, the younger one, didn't handle it well. He started drinking more. At first it was just to sleep, then just on weekends, and then it was every day. The driver said he tried to help, tried to be the responsible one. "I was grieving, but I didn't have the luxury to fall apart," he told me. "Someone had to keep things together." They argued constantly, about money, about the house, about the drinking. One night it exploded into a full-on confrontation. His brother showed up drunk, yelling that their parents were gone because no one cared enough. He said things you can't take back. "I slapped him," the driver said quietly. "First and only time I ever hit someone. I left the house that night and didn't talk to him for almost a year." He stared straight ahead as he said this. "That was the moment I lost my brother," he added. "Not physically, just emotionally." And he had no idea that worse losses were still waiting for him. He said that after his parents died, he threw himself into building something new, almost out of desperation. "That's when I met my wife," he said, and for the first time since the ride began, his face softened a little, just for a second. I didn't think I could love anyone like that again. She kind of saved me without knowing she was doing it. They met through mutual friends. She was patient, he said. Patient with his silence. Patient with his mood swings. Patient with the way grief still sat between them like an uninvited guest. He warned her early on that he was damaged. She laughed, he said. Told me everyone is. For a while, life felt almost normal again. They got married. They had 2 kids, a boy first, then a girl. He told me their names, but I won't repeat them here. It felt too personal, like those names still belonged only to him. When my son was born, he said, I thought, okay, this is it. This is the reason I survived everything before. He worked hard. Long hours. Taxi driving at night, whatever paid the bills. He said he wasn't perfect, but he tried. He really tried. Then his wife started changing. At first I thought she was just tired, he said. Kids will do that to you. Life will do that to you. She became distant, quieter, always on her phone. Short answers, less eye contact. I should have asked more questions, he said, his voice dropping. But I was so afraid of losing what I had that I pretended not to see the cracks. That fear, he told me, would cost him everything. He said the night everything broke is burned into his memory in a way nothing else is. I came home early, he told me. Didn't even tell her. I wanted to surprise the kids. The apartment was quiet, too quiet. The TV was off. The kids' shoes were by the door, but their backpacks were gone. His wife's phone was on the kitchen counter, face down. That alone made his stomach drop. I knew something was wrong before I knew, he said. You know what I mean? He picked up the phone. He said he wasn't proud of it, but his hands were shaking so badly he almost dropped it. There were messages. Nothing graphic. Just enough. Inside jokes. Plans. A name he didn't recognize. When she came home, he didn't yell. He didn't throw anything. He just asked one question. Who is he? She sat down. Didn't deny it. Didn't cry. That hurt him more than anything. She said it had been going on for months, he said. She said she felt lonely, that I was never really there, like I hadn't spent my whole life trying to hold everything together. They argued, not screaming, worse. Calm voices, heavy words, the kind that don't fade with time. Then she said something that still echoes in his head. I don't think we're a family anymore. He went quiet after that. The car slowed slightly, like his foot had eased off the gas without him noticing. That sentence, he said, was the beginning of the end, even though I didn't know how bad the ending would be yet. After that night, nothing was the same. He said they tried to be adults about it. Therapy, long conversations after the kids went to sleep, promises that sounded convincing in the moment and empty the next morning. I wanted to fix it, he said, not just for me, for the kids. I grew up without parents. I couldn't let them grow up without a family. But his wife had already checked out. That's how he described it. Like she was physically there, cooking, cleaning, helping with homework, but emotionally somewhere else entirely. Then came the confrontation with the kids. I didn't want to tell them, he said. I wanted to protect them from everything ugly. But kids notice. They always do. One evening, his son asked why Mom and Dad didn't laugh together anymore. His daughter asked why Mom cried in the bathroom. That night we sat them down, he said. My hands were shaking so badly I had to sit on them. They told them Mommy and Daddy were having problems. That it wasn't the kids' fault. That they were still loved more than anything. His daughter started crying immediately. His son went completely silent. That silence, he said, swallowing hard, was worse than screaming. A few weeks later, his wife said she needed space. She took the kids to stay with her sister for a while. He watched them pack bags. He kissed their foreheads. He told them it was temporary. They waved at me from the car, he said. I remember thinking, this feels too final to be temporary. He was right. He said the apartment felt like a grave after they left. I kept expecting to hear footsteps, he told me. A door slamming. Someone asking what's for dinner. But it was just nothing. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. Visits with the kids became scheduled, supervised by calendars and text messages instead of love and routine. He tried to stay upbeat for them, took them to the park, bought ice cream, smiled until his face hurt. But every time they left, he said, it felt like losing them all over again. Then came the call. It was late evening. His wife was supposed to bring the kids by the next day. She sounded strange on the phone. Panicked. Rushed. She said there'd been an accident. He said quietly. A drunk driver. Again. Same words the police had used years ago. Same cold, careful tone. The kids were in the car with her sister. She survived. The kids didn't. He pulled over when he told me this. Just stopped the car on the side of the road. Hazards blinking. He pressed his forehead against the steering wheel and didn't speak for a long time. I don't remember the funeral, he finally said. I don't remember the hospital. I don't remember weeks of my life. My brain just erased it. His wife blamed herself. He blamed the world. Sometimes, he admitted, he blamed himself for letting them leave that day. That's when life stopped making sense, he said. Everything after that is just extra time I don't know what to do with. And all I could think was how unfair it was that one person could survive so much loss and still be expected to keep going. After the kids died, his marriage didn't just fall apart. It evaporated. There was nothing left to hold it together, he said. No arguments, no love, no future. Just shared guilt. They barely spoke after that. When they did, it was logistical. Papers. Signatures. Who keeps what? He said the divorce felt pointless. Like labeling ruins after a fire. I don't hate her, he said, surprising me. I don't have the energy to hate anyone. He went to work the week after the funeral. Not because he needed money, but because staying home felt dangerous. If I stayed alone with my thoughts, he said, I don't know what I would have done. That's when his brother reappeared. The alcoholic brother. Older now. Worse now. Still drinking, still unstable. He showed up one night with a bottle in his hand and tears in his eyes. He said, we're all that's left, the driver said. And I hated that he was right. They live together now. Or coexist, really. The driver works nights. The brother drinks days away. Sometimes they don't speak for weeks even though they share the same space. He forgets things, the driver said. Birthdays. Names. Sometimes he forgets I lost my kids. When he asks how they're doing, I just leave the room. That was the moment I realized this man wasn't just sad. He was surviving in the aftermath of a life that had already ended. He told me that living with his brother was like sharing space with a shadow. Not a person. Not really. Just someone who reminded him of everything he'd lost. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night, he said. And he's passed out on the couch, bottle in hand, snoring like nothing happened. And I can't move. I can't scream. I can't leave. I just watch and feel empty. He said he'd tried to reach out before. Tried to help his brother get clean, to fix the mess that both of them had become. But you can't fix people who don't want fixing, he admitted. And I can't fix myself either. He laughed bitterly at that. A sound that was almost a sob. I drive this cab because it keeps me moving, he said. Somewhere, anywhere, away from silence. Every passenger is a little reminder that life keeps going. Even if I don't know how to. I asked him if he ever thought about ending it, just letting everything stop. He nodded. Just once. And he said, sometimes it feels like that would be easier than breathing through this emptiness. Then he shook his head, as if shaking away a thought he didn't want to acknowledge. But I can't. Not yet. Not for them. Whoever they are now. He drove on in silence after that, and I could feel the weight of his words pressing down like the night outside. After a while, I asked him what kept him going. It felt like a stupid question the moment it left my mouth. But he didn't seem offended. He thought about it for a long time. Routine, he finally said. Habit. Fear of messing up one more thing. He told me there were days he didn't feel real. Like he was just watching himself live someone else's life. Wake up. Shower. Drive. Sleep. Repeat. I don't feel joy, he said plainly. I don't feel anger either. It's like everything got turned down to zero. That scared him more than the sadness ever did. At one point, he tried pretending to be okay, smiling at passengers, making jokes, acting like a normal guy with a normal life. It felt like lying on my parents' grave, he said, like I was betraying the people I lost. Eventually, someone noticed. A regular passenger. A woman who rode with him every week. She didn't ask questions. Just one day, before getting out, she handed him a small piece of paper with a number on it. She said, "You don't have to use it. Just don't throw it away." He kept it in his wallet for months. Every time I thought I was done, he said, I touched that paper, like it was proof someone saw me. That's when he decided to talk to a psychologist. Not because he wanted to get better, but because he didn't want to disappear unnoticed. He said therapy didn't magically fix anything. No sudden clarity. No inspirational breakthroughs. I sat there in silence for the first 3 sessions, he told me. The psychologist just waited. Didn't rush me. Didn't tell me it would be okay. Eventually, words started coming out. Messy ones. Angry ones. Things he'd never said out loud because he was afraid that once they existed, they'd destroy what little he had left. I told her I didn't want to be alive, he said. But I also didn't want to die. I just wanted everything to stop hurting. She didn't judge him. She didn't panic. She told him that grief doesn't move in straight lines, and that surviving doesn't mean forgetting. One day, she asked him a question that stayed with him. If your children could see you now, she asked, what would you want them to believe about you? He couldn't answer at first. The question made him physically sick. I realized I didn't want them to think I gave up, he said quietly. Even if I feel like I already did. That didn't give his life meaning again. Not fully. But it gave him a direction. Something small to hold on to when the days felt unbearable. He started cutting back on night shifts. Started sleeping more. Started sitting with his brother sometimes instead of avoiding him. Not to save him. Just to not be completely alone. He said reconnecting with his brother was harder than he expected. It's strange, he told me. How someone can be both the only family you have left and the person who reminds you of everything you lost. Some nights they sat in the kitchen in silence, the smell of alcohol heavy in the air. Other nights his brother talked too much, slurring stories from their childhood, laughing at things that weren't funny anymore. Sometimes he cries, the driver said. Big, ugly cries. Says he's sorry. Says he should have died instead. Those nights were the worst. I don't know how to comfort him, he admitted. I barely know how to breathe. But slowly something shifted. Not healing, just less distance. His brother agreed to see a doctor. Not to quit drinking completely, but to talk. To acknowledge the problem. That's more than I ever expected, he said. The psychologist warned him not to make his brother his reason for living. That responsibility would crush them both. So now, he said, I'm trying to live for something smaller. He started walking in the mornings. No headphones, just footsteps and air. He started writing down memories of his kids. Not the painful last ones, but the stupid, ordinary ones. Spilled juice, bad drawings, made-up songs. They still hurt, he said. But they don't destroy me anymore. For the first time in the ride, he took a deep breath that didn't sound broken. He told me that even now, years later, the pain is always there. A shadow that follows him into the cab, into the streets, into every quiet moment. Sometimes I see a child laughing on the sidewalk, he said, and I want to scoop them up, keep them safe from everything. And then I remember, I already lost mine, and I feel sick all over again. But he also said there are tiny moments that make it bearable. A passenger who thanks him genuinely. A neighbor who waves hello. His brother making a half-hearted joke that actually makes him laugh. I don't know if this counts as happiness, he said. Maybe it doesn't, but it's better than nothing. It's enough to keep going. He admitted that he's still angry sometimes. At the drunk drivers, at fate, at himself for not being able to save anyone. But he's learning that anger doesn't have to be a prison. can be a reminder that he cared, that he still does. Most people, he said, eyes on the road, can't imagine losing everything. I wish that on no one. But maybe if they see me here, surviving, maybe they'll hug their kids a little tighter tonight. Maybe they'll say, I love you more. He glanced at me through the rearview mirror, a small, tired smile tugging at his lips. That's all I can hope for. And I realized that in that cab, with the weight of his grief hanging thick in the air, he was trying. Just trying. And somehow that mattered. As we drove on, he went quiet again. Not the heavy, broken silence from the beginning, but a thoughtful one. Like he was looking at the city and seeing it for the first time in years. I know people think I'm just a taxi driver, he said slowly. Like my life is boring or meaningless. But every day I get in this car, I meet someone new. Someone who tells me about their life, their problems, their stupid little victories. And I listen. And for a few minutes, I'm part of something bigger than my grief. He laughed softly, the first real laugh I'd heard. It sounds pathetic when I say it out loud, doesn't it? No, I told him. It makes sense. He shrugged. Maybe it just keeps me from disappearing completely, from letting all the pain swallow me. I can't fix the past. I can't bring back my family. But I can be here. And that's something, isn't it? I didn't answer. I didn't need to. For the first time on the ride, I felt like I was witnessing a man who had been broken, who had stared into the void, and somehow kept moving forward. Not healed, not whole, just surviving. And maybe I thought surviving is enough. Sometimes. By the time we reached my destination, the city lights blurred past, reflecting in his tired eyes. He didn't ask for a tip, didn't make small talk. Just pulled over, hand on the door handle. Thank you for listening, he said quietly. Most people don't. Most people don't want to hear it. I told him it wasn't a problem, that I was glad he shared. But inside, I felt heavier than when I got in the car. He had lived through more pain than I could imagine, yet here he was, still breathing, still driving, still showing up for a world that had taken everything from him. As I stepped out, I realized something. I had gone in expecting a ride. I got a story that made me want to call my parents, hug my siblings, tell my friends I love them. Because life is fragile, and time with people who matter isn't guaranteed. I watched him drive away, a lone figure in the city night, carrying a lifetime of grief in a cab that smelled faintly of coffee and upholstery cleaner. I hoped somehow that telling his story might lift a little of that weight, if not for him, then for anyone else who reads it. Because sometimes, surviving is all that matters. And maybe that's enough.